Hello, everyone. Getting over a sickness, ChannelBK here. As always, welcome to What's on Repeat, July through September. My co-host Joshua Kirk, everybody.
Hi,
You already know
everyone.
what it is. I think this is probably going to be one of our better episodes. These are four
Yes.
albums. I haven't listened to Josh's single yet, even though I am a fan of this very particular artist that he's going to be talking about. But all four albums, I really enjoy. Like I really enjoy. I'm excited for the conversation that we're going to have. So we're going to get into singles first. Last time we had a shared single, but this time we have two different singles. So Joshua, what is the single you've been listening to?
Yeah, so my single, it's from an electronic artist that I think the last time we actually had like a real conversation about him was our very first What's on Repeat, summer of 2020. We had talked about his last album and um he's got the follow-up coming out uh 2 days after we shoot, so it'll probably be out by the time this drops. And it's Caribou with Volume. Uh this song is not the most recent single. It's uh so there have been like four singles for this new album so far. And this is just the one that I think I'm the most just generally intrigued by. I mean, all the singles generally I think have been good. And hearing them and seeing the direction with this new album, it seems like uh this is going to be like a mostly instrumental kind of record. Because in terms of like the vocals, he's not really on it. He's more kind of the producer making these beats and like putting together these sounds. And like the vocals that I am hearing are like either samples or there's like a woman singing on like two of them. And he's kind of yeah, his last record definitely saw him really like double down on kind of that house sort of aesthetic, and he's just sort of diving a bit further into that. And this song, I think, in particular, I think is a great example of that. I mean, the groove is really solid, and I just think the mix on here is like really well done. And with it being more minimal, you it kind of allows you to sort of pick out more of the nuances with uh the way that those synths sound, because they're kind of like they sound kind of fuzzy like that over that that beat. And I think the incorporation of the samples on here is really neat, from the pump up the volume to uh those kind of like prettier flourishes throughout the song. And I just think the build of it's great, and I think the breakdown at the end is awesome. And like I just I'm just really excited for this new Caribou album, because now I'm at a point with him now where um yeah, I just really like a lot of the sounds he's like been diving into lately, and it'll be nice to get something like this from him in a year that I think already has been pretty great for electronic albums, because we had like Igloo Ghost put out an album this year that's great. More recently, the new Floating Points album. Uh, I guess technically Charlie XCX counts, since as she says on that song, she's making those club classics. Electronic music's been going pretty hard in 2024. And yeah, spoiler, we're going to talk about one of those records when we get to my albums. But yeah, shout out to Caribou. This song is a banger, and yeah, looking forward to hearing the new album, Honey, which comes out this weekend.
I'm
And
actually happy you brought this up because I didn't even know Caribou was coming out with an album. So I appreciate it. And I really like Caribou's last album. I believe you did as well. So I'm excited.
yes,
Now I'm actually, because I thought this single was like maybe like kind of a Lucy or like his album doesn't come out till next year. But if it comes out literally, possibly the day it comes
this
out, day before, day after, whatever,
oh yeah, Friday.
so I'm excited now that we get a new Caribou album. Awesome. I'm gonna mainly for me and other people that are fans of this band, I'm gonna kind of bring the mood down a little bit. A band that I've been a fan of for quite some time has announced that they're putting on a new album, but it's their last album as a group, which is kind of crazy to think they've put out 4 albums over the span of for
Mhm.
15 years or so, maybe more. Yeah, because I think they've had like the one B-sides compilation. Japan Droids with Chicago. Japan Droids is a group that I think most people, if they know of them, they either are like they dig what they do or they're like, okay, it's just whatever. Their second album, Celebration Rock, is unbelievable to me. I think it's a near perfect album. It has such a tight set list or track list rather, and it just sounds incredible. I think their first album is solid. It was more rough around the edges, and then their third album they kind of ventured out into some different sounds, some longer songs, some different things here and there. And then after 7 years, we have a new album, and it's their final album and song Chicago. It sounds like Japan Droids, and I really like it. I love the riff. Brian's vocals on it are sweeping and hoorah rah as all Japan Droid songs are. I think the way it builds when the drums come in and the way the second half sort of bolsters in that big finale. There's been other couple singles coming out from this record as well. This one I chose because I think it's just what Japan Droids is known for, but also they're kind of changing it up a little bit. It's not like all intense in your face. There's some little nuance to it as well. So I am definitely looking forward to that album, which will be coming out sometime this month. I don't know when. I think it's either I don't think it's the weekend that we're shooting this. I think it's gonna be a few weeks. I just checked it. So excited for that. But let's get into some albums. I already feel my throat closing in on me. We're gonna keep it in the rock territories, the grungy garage rock territory. No Name, Jack White. No Name, Jack White. The album that I had to tell Josh about because I literally saw a post about it. Hey, Jack White has an album. Huh? And no one really knew initially if this was like actually his new album or if it was like a whole nother thing. And then after it was put on the internet, it went to streaming. He's done a bunch of shows. I got fucked over by Ticketmaster, so I couldn't see him in Ann Arbor. Screw you, Ticketmaster. And we're here now with No Name. And I'll be honest, there's not much I need to say about this record that I think hasn't been said, but there's one thing I do want to update Josh on because originally we were talking about this album and I was saying how much I love it. It is definitely not my number 3 Jack White album anymore. It is probably my number 2. I think it is definitely better than Boarding House Reach the more I've sat with it. I don't like it more than Fear of the Dawn. I think Fear of the Dawn is just very tight. And I really like the flow of that record and how weird it is, but how in your face. But this record, dude, this is the album everyone's been kind of like sitting and hoping Jack White would put out forever now. And like the
Yeah,
fact that he did it the way that he did it, it's just so funny to me. Because he starts off with his first 2 records that, he's doing songs like how he normally does, but there was some more singer-songwriting stuff, right? And like those 2 albums aren't definitely terrible. They're not amazing, but they're not the worst things ever. Boarding House Reach,
no,
let's go crazy, right? Then we got Fear of the Dawn and Entering Heaven Alive, which Entering Heaven Alive was acoustic-y. Fear of the Dawn was kind of his garage rock sound, but it was also with the weird embellishes of what he did on Boarding House Reach. This album, he's like, okay, fine. This is a Jack White, White Stripes sounding, old school Racketeer, all that shit. And it's pretty awesome. Like, dude, this album, man, is just so in your face, grungy. Old Scratch Blues, I think, is a great way to hook you into the album. I think Bless Yourself is one of the best Jack White songs of recent memory. I love, I've always really loved Jack White's voice because it's a good voice, but he projects so well and it's so charismatic. Bless Yourself is so cocky. He's so confident. The line where he's like, if God is busy, I'm just going to bless myself. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, it was so in your face. The big single from this album, That's How I'm Feeling, is a great song as well. Really, like, this album just goes and goes. Bombing Out is all fuzzy, and the way his vocals sound is it's like it's awesome. I will say my favorite song on the album is number one with the bullet. I love the way it opens. It kind of opens a little slower. And then number one with the bullet. Like, and it's just I don't know how Jack White can still do this. Like his songwriting is still so inventive and the narratives he puts together are so like in your head. The way he writes
Yeah.
is incredible. Like again, this album's great for it being Jack White doing a Jack White album, right? And it's him going back to that form, but it's an album that just makes you sit back and appreciate as weird as he is, all this stuff, as much as he loves the music community, as much as he does awesome stuff for the music community, he makes some pretty awesome music. And I think this is an album a lot of fans have been waiting for. Again, you and I appreciate the weird stuff from him because it's Jack White kind of being like, no, I'm too old to go back to this. But I'm fine that he's gone back to this because it's like we've been waiting and we got so much other great shit. So now we're getting an album of his that we're like, okay, this is what you're known for and all that. Um like I said, I don't have anything else to say if you want to add anything to that because in all honesty, I think the album is just awesome. Like it's just a phenomenal rock record.
I actually talked about this record on my social media stories, and I guess I'm kind of the odd one out with this one. I mean, I do think it's a good record, and I mean, you saw me when you were mentioning number one with a bullet. I was dancing. I'm right there with you. I love that song. But weirdly, I actually would say that Fear of the Dawn and Boarding House Reach are still like my top two
I
like
respect
solo
that.
records of him. So I guess in a way, like given that I was so intrigued by Jack White kind of doing stuff that maybe made some of his fans kind of like go like yikes. But yet that it still worked because it was Jack White just kind of doing whatever he wanted and uh not really giving a fuck what people thought of it. And this record, I kind of listened to it and I was like, yeah, this very much feels like yeah, a serve to his fans, and I have nothing against that. I mean, there's definitely records this year, like the new Charlie XCX. I kind of talked about how that was kind of a little bit of fan service, and still a great album. Yeah, but in the case of this, I mean, it undoubtedly rocks, but yeah, it just came off a little more predictable for me. But really, other than that, I pretty much am in your camp with all of his solo records for sure.
like I think the thing with this record is once it went on streaming and I got song titles and I kind of got an idea of like I think because the first time I listened to it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty dope. And I think once he gave us certain things and I was finally able to sit with the album, and yeah, like I'd sit there and I'm just like, I hear the riffs in my head all the time. I hear him singing on this album all the time. Because at first I'm like, it wasn't as memorable as the albums I really like of his. And then the more I sat with it and the more I got other information, I was like, uh, yeah, this album's pretty awesome for sure.
Oh
So
yeah, because when I listened to it, it was just from the YouTube link
yeah,
you sent me, and yeah, some of the song titles were like, yeah, just stuff that, yeah, just kind of uh
things people pulled
uh
out of it.
yeah, and then when it went on streaming, I saw like more like, oh yeah, like there's a song in here called like Archbishop. I can't remember the rest of that name or something like that, and I'm like, but either way, like you look at the titles, I'm like, oh yeah, like these are Jack White song titles for sure.
Yeah. So and then second album, which I think initially I was like struck by. I have died down on this album a bit because it's not an album that like I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. I've been going back to it a lot recently. Initially, I think when I listened to it and then I listened to it again, I was like, maybe this wasn't as great as I thought, but I still think it is. Um, the new JPEG, the new Buttermilk Jesus. I lay down my life for you. So this album I'm going to be honest. When I saw he was putting out a new album and he was putting out singles, I was like, okay, I'll listen to it. But for some reason, I was just like, okay. It seemed like it was very all over the place. And like, it just seemed like the rollout was really strange. And so when it came out, I started hearing everyone talk about how great it was. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I, like Josh, my favorite album of his is LP Offline. And because I think, he's one of those artists where he has these long albums and he has kind of these like detours he takes, but I think that was the most fully realized vision of that. This album, however, I think is my new favorite of his because it feels like this is his most focused record. It's
Yeah.
maybe not his most experimental or out there record, but first off, I think it's his most personal record. Like the second half of this album has some of the darkest things I think I've ever heard him rap about. Like
Oh
him,
yeah, the second half made me emotional.
because yeah, the first song on here, I scream this in the mirror before I interact with anyone. That's a Death Grips title if I heard one.
Yeah.
Um, and it sounds
If
like
I
the
was an NBA
intro to
player, I'd be Dylan
Powers That
Brooks.
Be, where it's like that revving up and it's just him going off. It sounds like I break mirrors in my face in the United States, honestly. But that song starts and you're like, okay, this is what I expect. And then Sin Miedo, I don't know how to pronounce. The fuck is this beat? Then it's I'm like, okay, here we go. This is definitely probably one of the weirdest songs on the album. I think the way he goes on it is fantastic. I love how pulsating and bright and vibrant the beat is, even though like it has like an electronic flavor to it. I thought was great. I'll Be Right There, I thought was really great. It's Dark and Hell is Hot is great. New Black History with Vince Staples. I saw that and I'm like, how is this gonna be? And they did the sample of the Vince Staples song, and then like the way that do it brought me back to like,
Okay, Flume actually co-produced that beat.
okay, that makes honestly complete sense because it came across like a Big Fish Theory song. Like I got
Yeah.
a little bit of a vibe to that on the song, and Vince did his thing. Um, Ex-Military is one of the best songs on the album. I love just obviously the sample on it and the way like the kind of the slow nature of it and the way that it builds. JPEG Ultra, I believe, is the one song with Denzel Curry. Yes, JPEG Ultra
Yeah,
I thought was great. And then yeah, like the last four songs on here brings you into this weird, like emotional kind of
yeah,
like introspective moment. And you're like, what the hell's going on? Like you're not expecting it. And again, this album is 14 songs. And by that point, you're like, it doesn't feel like it's like you get like that 30-second song or that skit or like that weird beat change thing. Like, because that's what all of his albums up until this point are. I can respect it and appreciate it, but at a certain point, I go, listen, JPEG, I think you're a dope producer. I think you're a dope rapper. I want to hear something that's like, it's like with 1975 with their latest release. I really like
yeah.
you. Just put out something that's like tight, get in, get out. Because I know that would be something that I think would make me appreciate you more is the fact that then you can have that kind of condensed work and it works. It works. It's a dope album.
Oh yeah, like this album, like some of the beats on here, like yeah, yeah, like it's dark and hell is hot, like the I just bound to think of it and coming and they come in and like I don't know what's going on in there, but like I really dig it anyway. And like either on or off the drugs, like yeah, yeah, that sample is just beautiful. That like and him just rapping over top of it and like and don't put anything on the Bible. Like yeah, the opening to that song with Buzzy Lee is gorgeous. Like yeah, like I was just listening. And listening to this album, I was just like JPEG, like I already know you to like get me excited and and like feel rage when I listen to your music. But now you're like almost making me cry with these last four songs. Like what the hell, man?
It's
But
something
yeah,
that like with LP, I felt like LP was the height of that JPEG, but like even weirder. Like, like Hazard Duty Pay is a perfect example, right? Where it's like I still think that's one of the best produced rap songs in like such a long time. That album though felt like what he was doing, but like the best. Like it felt like the most top-notch version of like a veteran or cornballs. This is him being like, okay, I've done most things sonically. How about I give you some stuff to feel, some feelings? Not to say he's never done that completely, but the fact that the end of the album, like he's had personal stuff, but like the whole finale of the album is like him just unloading all of this stuff onto us. And you're just like, and it's like, because on previous albums, it's like, the beat is dark and it's like him being like, yeah, things are tough, blah, blah, stuff like that,
oh
right?
yeah,
Whereas
like
this album,
well,
the ending is like this slow, mellow R&B beat, and it's him just like, man, things are tough. And you're like, this is JPEG Mafia. Like, it's weird. Like, you're not expecting,
yeah,
it works. It works.
because like the finale of Cornballs, Poppy, I Missed You,
Yes,
that's kind of a dark emotional song, but that
exactly.
song was like weird
Yeah.
and like yeah, the progression of that beat was so like yeah, experimental pretty much.
Well, I like to think that my feel like my two albums that I picked in a weird way kind of mirror yours because we got one that seems like it's the artist doing what they do, right? To a high degree.
Yeah.
And then we got something that's a little darker, a little spookier, a little more emotional. So, Joshua Kirk, I'm excited. I feel like I'm more excited for your two albums because these are two albums that are more recent And I didn't really get to talk to you that much about them. I just told you my general opinion. So let's go.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So the first album, I mean, it's probably our most anticipated electronic album of the year. And guess what? It was pretty much worth the wait. It's Jamie XX with In Waves. So it's been at least 9 years since his debut in color. An album that we were kind of talking about how Jamie XX has been kind of influential for kind of the like the current wave, the like that sort of kind of new age like electronic like house sound, and in a way, he's kind of uh sort of in a similar boat with people like Disclosure in that way. Um, and the singles leading up to this new album kind of set it up to be like more in your face and energetic, like treat each other right. I don't think we need to say that much more than what we already said in the last episode. It's probably the house song of the year. And like the other singles kind of have a similar vibe where, uh the songs hit hard, they're fun. Like I have like some of the like sounds stuck in my head, like Batty on the Floor. I literally have the bada 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 what bada 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 what. I have had that stuck in my head for a bit. And yeah, that song is great. And like the song with Robin as well, Life, I definitely was like, I think the horns sound incredible on there, and I think the way like I think she sounds fantastic on it, and the way like both like her and like his vibes kind of gel on this song is like really well done.
I will say,
Definitely
All You Children
also
is my favorite single with the Avalanches. I think that song is
oh
mesmerizing.
man.
I love that song so much.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can tell that avalanches are like on there because of like that kind of like chipmunk vocal sample. Yeah, over top of that groove. And I think I'm hearing like Jamie's like signature like steel pan drum like in the second half, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm glad you didn't abandon that sound. And yeah, again, another very well done crossover. Um, Now, granted, this whole album doesn't necessarily have like the same vibe as some of these singles, and yet I think kind of the like the pulsatingness and the energy kind of remains this whole record, like even on the more like low key tracks, like Waited All Night, which features his bandmates from the XX,
Mhm.
Oliver Sim and Romy, like is definitely it's sensual, it's kind of moody, and yeah, another track that's been stuck in my head because of that da 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 da. I waited all night. Like I think it's cool how you hear like Romy singing, and then her voice is kind of sampled and like pitched up a couple octaves. And then Oliver comes in like da, 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 da. And yeah, I think that works really well, and I just think the flow of this record, uh like I kind of think Wanna is like perfect as the intro because like it kind of somewhat picks up where In Color left off, because it's still kind of spacey with those faded out pianos and like that like mesmerizing sample and those strings. And oh my God, the way that transitions into Treat Each Other Right kind of makes that song like hit a little harder than it already did. Because like with this first track, we're kind of easing into it, and then boom, 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 boom.
It feels like In Color to me is a better record, but I think it's a better record
Agreed.
because it's a better record because it, and again, I know a lot of this is going to be corny on the nose, but clearly it makes sense because Jamie XX titled both of these albums a certain way because it makes sense. You hear In Color, you see the album cover. That album is like it's not the most groundbreaking record, but it's textured. It has these layers. It's like ambient music, but it's also dance music. It's fun. It's clubby. It's like a mixture of a lot of that. Like it's a lot less in your face and more of it really is more of an album you just kind of let like you just let it go over you. This album is like you put that shit on and for like 40 something minutes, you're just like, we're here to have a good time in waves. It's wavy. It's, it's again, it's club bangers. That's not a bad thing because it's not like this album feels just like a stereotypical, like clubby electronic album. It's, I make textured, creative electronic music. But my first album was more like, kind of low key and it had these weirder sounds. I'm just gonna fucking do an album with awesome sampling, awesome vocals, and just be like, let's fucking party, right? Like let's just have fun. And
Yeah.
that's why I don't think I actually think it's kind of a shot to say it's not as good because I don't even think they're the same kind of album and they're not the same kind of album you're expecting. Like you don't go to In Color. Like In Color has good jams, but In Color is more supposed to be this sonic experience. This album is like I just remember sitting here listening to it and it was like the equivalent of the Skrillex album where I'm just like I'm just having a good fucking time. I'm like this sounds
Yeah.
so good. And it's just
Yeah.
great to see Jamie back doing something like this because the XX haven't put out an album in forever. I know they've all been doing their solo albums, and then he hasn't really done, he's done Lucy songs for a bit, but it's like we've all been like,
Yeah.
where are you, Jamie? Come back. We want something else. So I'm interested if we're gonna have to wait another while. What's next? We got a textured electronic ambient album. Now we got a kind of poppy, clubby in your face album. Where do you go next? Right. So it's interesting. But yeah, this album is not meant to be listened to the same way as In Color, even though, again,
No.
this album, like you said, it has darker moments. In Color
Oh
has
man.
moments. But this album is meant to be like you put it on, you have your bounciness, and then like you said, you get to the low parts and you're like, okay. And then Baddie on the Floor comes on and you're like, I'm a baddie on the floor. And then you get slow again. And then you get crazy. Like that's how this album rolls. Like it's the flow of it. Love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh man, when you said darker stuff, because I think Breather is probably the darkest sounding song he's made,
Yeah.
like so far. Like, I mean, just yeah, that sample, which is kind of like a guided meditation, and like just yeah, the intro, the boom, 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 and then it's just like that little sample, and you get these like kind of wavy layers of synth. Breathe in and let go. Bum 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 bum. Yeah. Like that song, besides the singles, was probably the song that made me just go the most like, holy crap, for sure.
And you know what? To go to an album that you definitely liked a lot more than I did, what I appreciate about this album, kind of like the Charlie album, and it doesn't come across corny at all. And this is not a joke. Like this is a for real thing. I like the fact that this album is literally Jamie going, let's fucking rave. Like, let's just have a party for 40 minutes. Like, forget all the bullshit about the world. Forget all the terrible things. Let's just have fun and dance. And
Yeah.
like, it could be so corny, but it doesn't come across that way. So I salute you, Jamie. I love it.
Oh yeah, and then that last song, Falling Together, like I think I have no idea how you pronounce this woman's name. Una, like her delivery on there was so like it was like kind of haunting, but also like it kind of uh yeah, it kind of gives this emotional impact in a way with her words and over top of that beat that just sounds like yeah, like this is the most just hopeful sounding like electronic beat I've heard all year, and boy, we could totally use that right now in 2024
Hmm.
because so yeah, this record definitely is definitely not completely escapist, but like but at the same time um it definitely feels like you're kind of in this party with Jamie. And yes, I think your comparison to the Charlie album is accurate because Charlie kind of went into that album with the same, I think, kind of intention in a way. And yeah, I just love how this album picks up where In Color left off, but it still feels like uh something entirely new. And and yeah, I I think that's all I really gotta say. Like this album's great. Jamie XX definitely avoided the sophomore slump curse here. But for my next record, this is probably we're gonna end things on kind of a weird dark note with this record. And I was shocked that both Brian and I ended up like both really liking this record because this is a band we historically have disagreed on. I mean, we've definitely been in the same camp of like they're definitely unique and out there. Like they're definitely not a boring group, but like it's really not until now with this new album, a couple of decades into their career that they've come out with something that we're both like, oh, okay. It's Shushu, with damn
Say it.
Shushu.
Say the whole
Why do you?
album.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. 13 by I don't know what that symbol is.
I think it's meant to
Frank
be
Bell.
13-inch.
Yeah, yeah. 13-inch. Frank Beltram, Italian stiletto with bison horn grips.
Hell yeah.
Like yeah, yeah. This kind of sounds like, yeah. You think the JPEG song titles sounding kind of Death Gripsy? Like, yeah. This is, yeah. This kind of sounds like a Death Grips kind of name for sure. Um, so so this band has been around for a while now. But I think it's only like just recently that we've uh like started really like digging into their work. My
I think
introduction to them,
them doing Twin Peaks, which
yes.
I'm gonna say, I know this is blasphemous. I love Twin Peaks. I've yet to listen to that, and now I am because I know that album, I think, kind of brought them a different kind of audience. I think that kind of brought in a lot more people that didn't know of them. And I feel like you were
Yes.
saying so late into their career, that I think was like the main kind of moment that I think a lot more people got onto the shoo shoo train. Sounds like I said choo choo train. The shoo shoo train.
Um
So
Oh man. Oh. Yeah, now I have to talk about their next few albums. But yeah, like my first original music Shushu album was Forget in 2017, and then it was Girl with Basket of Fruit, Oh No, which you haven't listened to, but I have, Ignore Grief, and then this album. And I kind of feel like every other album of theirs is kind of it's either one of their accessible records or it's one of their darker experimental records. So like
Hmm.
Forget and Oh No are kind of the former. And then with the latter, that's where Girl with Basket of Fruit kind of gets into the conversation. Which is why this album I think is kind of an interesting like sort of middle ground for them where it's simultaneously one of their catchiest albums and it's also like this album is legit like I think one of the weirdest and most just like this like it could only be them doing this like kind of rock records that I've heard this year and and hearing some of the stuff about like some of it was recorded like in LA and then like some of it was recorded in Berlin like Germany and I'm like and you kind of hear that and I'm like oh yeah Shushu totally would do shit like this for sure and like and so hearing that as well as like Common Loon was the first single, and it kind of very well kind of set up this direction a little bit. Because that song is like it kind of gets stuck in your head, but it's so like odd and and yeah, I think hearing and this was an album I was uh very much looking forward to because I really liked the singles and even if I don't love everything Shushu has done like I was still like you know from what I'm hearing about it I am very intrigued by what they seem to be doing and then I hear this record and I'm like yeah this is pretty much as uh great as I hoped it would be. Venetium. I have no idea how you say that name. Like that's probably my favorite song on here. Like that song I think rocks pretty hard. Like and you don't really think of a Shushu track to be like this much of a jam. But like I love just how like it's spooky and I just think the way he sounds on it is great and that breakdown like this is just one of those songs where you're just listening to it and you're like it's a banger but you're also like what is going on like and you're just like um yeah it's one of those albums it's kind of like a Black Midi record where you listen to it and like it's kind of fun, but it's also kind of, you know, it's like it's meant to also be like kind of a just a visceral experience in a way and which is why a song like Maestro One Chord, which I think is a very clever song title for this because yeah, this song is pretty much just one chord and like yeah, like Jamie, not Jamie XX, Jamie Stewart's vocals are they just sound haunting and the way they're mixed is like it's kind of directly in your ears and it's like kind of unsettling and and just like what is going on sonically on this song? Like it's kind of like what you were saying with JPEG. Like I'm listening to this Shuju record and I'm just like, yeah, I have no idea how they put this together, but I fucking love it. And
Well, and it's funny too because you were talking about the accessibility and kind of where this album is, and I agree because like you, I've only listened to a few of their records, and I think for me, I don't think the weirdness is the problem. I think the problem is everyone seemed to be like Basket of Fruit was like so fucked. And I remember listening to it and being kind of like I don't know what I was supposed
I mean objectively that album is fucked for sure.
yeah. Like and like I didn't know what I was expecting, but this album opens with a haunting, beautiful opener with ARP Omni.
Omni.
And I was like, okay, this is kind of a song I expected from them, but I was like, this is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And then the next six songs, I'm like, oh, so we're gonna just go in your face and do shit like, okay, I'm cool with that. And
Yeah.
what's so funny is when Bobby Bland comes on, I was like, oh, this sounds like a shoo shoo song because it had like that weird like beat to it. But I
And
fuck.
then the middle of that song is like it sounds like prepared piano and like one of them's like hi, hi. It's like something out of a horror movie. Like
I
it's
was like,
creepy.
as when it started, I was like, uh-oh, this is like a shoo, like an actual shoo shoo song now. But I liked it. And then the finale also felt like a shoo shoo song to me too. Like the last two songs kind of felt like it kind of goes back to that. But like you, I think because us bringing up Jack White, the whole thing with combination, I don't know if this is 100% their most accessible. Now, obviously, I'm ignorantly speaking because I don't know a lot of their work. But like, forget, I don't ever remember it being this good. Like, I remember being like, it's solid, but I wasn't into it as much. And then their last couple records, I'm like, I get like why people may like them, but it just wasn't clicking with me. This is in your face. It sounds raw and aggressive. I think the opening and closing tracks kind of bookend the album in a really interesting way.
Oh
And
yeah.
the two shoe songs on here
Yeah, they're like the
work.
two ballads on the whole thing.
They work. Like, I'm like, okay. And just this album in itself was because that's my other thing is I like going into albums of artists that I'm not like 100% with because then this
Oh
is
yeah.
the action Josh gets out of me is like I listen to this and I go, dude, this fucking Shoo Shoo record's awesome. Because like I didn't go in knowing the singles. I just knew, okay, a new Shoo Shoo record. One day it's gonna click. That was the day this album came out because I said, this album fucks. I fuck with it. Like it's
Oh
I
yeah.
went and bought the record like the day after. It was a whole like
Oh my
it's
God.
it's fantastic.
I got you now and yeah, like I was gonna say like piña, coconut, and cherry, I think is a great just like dramatic finish. I mean, vocally on it, he's kind of doing like the normal like fantasy, and then at the end he's like legitimately just like screaming his that final verse like his brains out on there, and I'm just and it's like that's directly in your ear, and you're just like whoa, like that that's how you end an album.
I think it's just well put together. It sounds great. And
Yeah.
I think this album works so much better with Jamie and his vocals. Like I think it has like a more interesting sound. And again, I think that opener, when I heard it, I was like, okay. And then yeah, the rest of the album is just melting your fucking face off. So yeah, I literally typing out that message to you. I was like, oh, Josh is gonna be like, oh my God, Brian is into a shoo shoo record. And I was so excited to be into it. But again, I it was a low expectation because of what I know from them. But I'm glad that that was where my mind was because then I got to go into this album with like no expectation. And then I was like, this is pretty cool. So,
Oh yeah. But I think that's a wrap on this What's on Repeat.
yes, I apologize for having to move away because this little one
Aw.
was making noise in the hallway. And so I was making sure he wasn't peeing or pooping. He's a little brat, right?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just yeah, just like Charlie
Yep.
Brat.
Do you have any records that you liked from the past 3 months? I think that's a no. So on that note, Do you love any of these records that we suggested? What about records that we didn't bring up? Because let me tell you, there's a lot. There's a lot. I know Josh had a couple different changes. I was going
Yeah,
through a couple different changes of ones that I would have added. I'm glad he added the Shushu record though, because then I was like, cool, I can talk about it. Um, or singles and any of that stuff, leave it in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, check out all of Josh's stuff. And we're getting there. We're getting
yep,
close to the end of the year. Man,
yep.
we're so close to the end of the year. It's so crazy. It's
Oh yeah,
been a fun year. It's been very, very
yes,
so, but until next time, you want to send us out. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you for tuning into Channel BK. Peace out, everybody. Say peace
yep.
out. Bye.
Oh, bye.